Good evening, and welcome back to Deep Sleep Science. Tonight you are invited into one of the most extraordinary landscapes your mind already knows how to create. The territory where dreaming and awareness meet, where old emotional wounds find gentle hands waiting to tend them. You need not hold on to every detail. Let the words settle, like soft rainfall on warm earth. Some sinking deep, some simply washing over you. If sleep arrives before we finish, that is perfectly fine. Your unconscious mind will keep listening even after your waking thoughts have faded. Welcome to a place where healing happens quietly, one dream at a time. This gentle exploration of the sleeping mind builds bridges between resting souls everywhere. A quiet subscribe or like helps another sleepy soul discover this peaceful sanctuary. One small moment of kindness, one peaceful mind finding its way here. It means more than you might imagine. And we are grateful for every single one of you. Let yourself settle now. Feel the weight of the day lifting from your shoulders like morning mist rising from a quiet lake. Your body knows how to do this. Your muscles remember how to soften. Tonight we will journey through 100 calming psychology facts about lucid dreaming and emotional healing, discovering how your sleeping mind already possesses tools for mending what daylight alone cannot reach. Healing old emotional wounds often begins not with talking but with feeling. And some feelings only reveal themselves when the conscious mind steps aside. This is what makes the dream space so remarkable for psychological repair. In waking life, your defenses stand guard, filtering what you allow yourself to experience. Anxiety you have swallowed for years. Grief you postponed because the timing never felt right. Anger you learned to bury as a child. All of these accumulate beneath your awareness, like sediment settling at the bottom of a still pond. During sleep, particularly during vivid dreaming, those defenses naturally thin, and suppressed emotions begin to surface in symbolic form. Becoming aware inside such a dream changes the entire dynamic. You encounter the feeling fully, yet retain enough perspective to observe it rather than drown in it. Therapists sometimes describe this balance as having one foot in the river while the other rests on the bank, close enough to feel the current, steady enough to remain standing. Lucid dreams seem to offer this balance organically, consciousness dipping into deep emotional water without losing its footing. Picture that feeling as a lantern glowing deep inside a cave you once feared to enter. Its warm light revealing that the shadows were only shadows all along, patient and harmless, waiting to be seen. Carl Jung described the shadow as the collection of traits, impulses, and desires you have rejected or hidden from yourself. The parts deemed unacceptable by family, culture, or personal experience. Dreams frequently personify this shadow as threatening figures, strangers who chase you, dark presences lurking at the edges of dream scenes. In regular dreams, these encounters trigger fear or avoidance. In lucid dreams, something different becomes possible. You can turn toward the threatening figure with curiosity instead of terror. Lucid dreamers who have done this report transformative moments, asking the shadow figure what it needs, what it represents, what message it carries. The answers that emerge can feel startlingly honest, as though a part of you has been waiting years for someone to finally ask the right question. Recognizing the shadow as a disowned aspect of your own psyche rather than an external threat opens a door toward integration, toward becoming more psychologically whole by accepting all of who you are. like discovering that the growling sound in the next room was only the purr of a cat you had forgotten you owned. Fierce on the surface, gentle underneath. Yours all along. Psychological integration means bringing scattered pieces of experience into a coherent whole. Trauma fragments the psyche, splitting off painful memories, creating internal disconnection between what you think, what you feel, and what you remember. Healing requires weaving these fragments back together. Lucid dreams support this process by allowing conscious exploration of unconscious material in an immersive, emotional environment. You are not merely thinking about the difficult experience from a safe, intellectual distance. You are feeling the associated emotions in a protective container while maintaining enough awareness to process rather than simply react. Research on effective trauma therapy consistently emphasizes achieving this balance between emotional engagement and reflective distance. Lucid dreaming appears to create these conditions naturally. Awareness, gently touching unconscious content without being consumed by it. Imagine gathering scattered pages of a beloved book that the wind once tore apart, each page finding its place again, the story becoming readable once more, whole and complete in your quiet hands. Many people carry a harsh inner critic, an internalized voice that judges, shames, and condemns. This voice often develops in childhood, absorbing the standards of parents, teachers, or peers. In dreams, the inner critic frequently appears as a threatening or condemning figure, someone yelling, punishing, or expressing disappointment. Lucid dreamers who have confronted these dream critics describe unexpected revelations. When asked, "Why are you here?" or "What are you protecting me from?" the critical figure sometimes softens, revealing that its harshness was an attempt to protect you from failure, rejection, or humiliation. Understanding that even the cruelest internal voice arose from a protective impulse, however misguided, creates space for self-compassion. The lucid dream makes this understanding experiential rather than intellectual, felt in the body rather than merely recognized in the mind, like realizing that the thorns on a rose stem were never trying to harm you. They were simply protecting something tender and beautiful underneath, doing the only job they knew how to do. Emotional healing rarely follows a straight line. You do not process a wound once and arrive at permanent resolution. Instead, healing moves in spirals, returning to familiar pain at deeper levels as your capacity to hold that pain expands. You might work through an issue in a lucid dream, feel genuinely resolved, then encounter the same theme months later from a different angle. This is not failure or regression. Each return visits the same territory at a different altitude, seeing more of the landscape with each pass. Lucid dreams reflect this natural cycle beautifully. A recurring dream theme that once triggered panic may gradually shift across months of practice, first becoming less intense, then becoming curious, eventually becoming almost peaceful. The spiral carries you closer to the center each time, and one quiet morning, you realize the thing that once haunted your nights has lost its power entirely. Like walking a mountain path that circles the same peak again and again, each loop higher than the last, until the summit finally comes into view and the climb feels not exhausting but strangely familiar, like coming home. Research increasingly reveals that emotional trauma stores itself in the body as deeply as in the mind. Chronic tension in the jaw, persistent tightness across the shoulders, unexplained pain in the lower back. These physical patterns can carry emotional histories. Dreams sometimes represent this stored trauma through bodily sensations. A crushing weight on the chest that symbolizes unprocessed grief. Paralysis that mirrors helplessness. Heat in the hands that echoes suppressed rage. In lucid dreams, directing attention to these physical sensations and gently inquiring into their emotional meaning can facilitate release. Some somatic therapists describe the body as a living archive, holding every experience the mind has tried to forget. Lucid dreams naturally combine physical sensation with emotional content in an immersive environment, creating opportunities to access and gently discharge what the body has been carrying. Like untying a knot that has been pulled tight for so long you forgot it was there. Each loosened thread bringing a wave of softness spreading through muscles that suddenly remember what relaxation feels like. Lucid dreaming is not solely a tool for processing pain. It can also cultivate positive emotional states. Gratitude, wonder, connection, and joy. Some practitioners deliberately create experiences of profound beauty in their lucid dreams, flying over luminous landscapes, swimming through star-filled oceans, embracing loved ones in settings of impossible tenderness. These are not escapist fantasies. Studies in positive psychology demonstrate that regularly experiencing genuine positive emotions builds psychological resilience, expanding your capacity to cope with difficulty. Your brain does not sharply distinguish between vividly experienced positive events and physically lived ones. Both register as authentic emotional nourishment. Dream joy feeds real joy. Dream wonder nourishes real wonder. Like planting flowers in a garden you thought could only grow thorns. Each blossom proof that beauty was always possible here, waiting for someone to believe in the soil. Consciousness during sleep is not absence, but different presence. Your sleeping mind is not unconscious in any simple sense. It is differently conscious, processing, organizing, sorting, and potentially healing across every stage of the night. The ability to maintain awareness through sleep state changes reveals something profound about the nature of mind itself. Consciousness is more flexible, more resilient, more trainable than most people assume. Lucid dreaming demonstrates that you are not trapped in automatic patterns, that you can observe your own mental processes even in the most altered states, that awareness can persist through transitions that seem to erase it. This discovery changes your relationship with consciousness itself, teaching you that you have more choice and more agency than you may have believed. Like discovering that the river you thought only flowed in one direction actually moves in gentle currents beneath the surface, carrying you wherever you choose to go, if only you learn to feel which way the water wants to move. Perhaps the deepest insight from lucid dream research is that effective healing requires not clever techniques, but simple courage. The willingness to feel what you have spent years avoiding. Lucid dreams support this courage by providing extraordinary safety. You are resting in bed, physically unthreatened. The dream will end if overwhelm arrives, and you maintain some degree of influence over the experience. These reassurances allow you to approach difficult emotions you have fled from during waking hours. And when those emotions are finally met with open awareness rather than resistance, something unexpected often happens. Fear transforms into clarity about what needs protecting. Grief reveals itself as love, with nowhere left to go. Anger becomes a boundary your younger self desperately needed, but never learned to set. The emotions themselves were never the enemy. The avoidance kept the pain alive. Like opening a door you locked years ago, expecting a monster on the other side, and finding instead a small child sitting quietly in the dark, waiting patiently for someone to come back and say, "It is safe now. You can come out." Building trust in your own resilience is essential for deep emotional work, and lucid dreams teach trust experientially rather than theoretically. Each time you face a frightening dream figure and discover you remain intact, trust grows a little stronger. Each time you feel a wave of difficult emotion in a dream and wake up whole, trust deepens by another increment. Over time, you accumulate genuine evidence that you are more resilient than you believed, that feelings can be survived, that your system possesses wisdom you can lean on. This earned trust, built through repeated experiences of safety despite vulnerability, becomes a resource available not only in dreams, but in waking life. You begin to approach difficult conversations, painful memories, and uncertain situations with a quiet confidence rooted in lived experience rather than positive thinking. Like a tree that has weathered countless storms, discovering that its roots grew deeper with each one. Not despite the wind, but because of it. Stronger now than any single gust could ever be. Self-compassion. The practice of treating yourself with the same kindness you would naturally offer a suffering friend appears consistently in healing research as one of the most powerful predictors of emotional recovery. Lucid dreams create visceral opportunities to practice this. Meeting a dream representation of your younger, wounded self and offering comfort teaches your neural circuits a new response pattern. Your internal voice, perhaps harsh and critical for decades, can learn gentleness through repeated practice. Studies demonstrate that self-compassion meaningfully reduces depression, anxiety, and shame, strengthening resilience and overall well-being. Lucid dreams make this practice felt rather than merely thought, experienced in the body and emotions rather than understood only in the intellect. Like cradling a bird with a broken wing in your palms, feeling its tiny heartbeat slow from panic to calm as warmth transfers from your hands to its trembling body. Healing passing silently between giver and receiver. Jung emphasized that wholeness does not mean perfection but completeness. Accepting every aspect of yourself, including the parts you wish were different. Lucid dreams facilitate this acceptance by presenting rejected material in forms you can interact with consciously. The figure you despise in a dream might embody self-hatred you have carried since childhood. The weakness you flee from might represent vulnerability you were taught to hide. Approaching these aspects with curiosity rather than rejection, recognizing them as parts of your own psychological ecosystem, supports a kind of internal homecoming. You stop fighting yourself. The energy previously spent on internal warfare becomes available for growth, creativity, and connection. Like welcoming home a traveler who was banished long ago, discovering that the household feels more complete with everyone present, even the ones who once seemed too difficult to live with. Lucid dreams occupy a liminal space, the boundary between conscious and unconscious, between waking logic and sleeping imagery, between what you know and what you feel. This in-between territory possesses unique therapeutic properties. In waking life, you tend toward either logical analysis or emotional immersion, rarely both simultaneously. During regular dreams, you are immersed in feeling but lack reflective capacity. Lucid dreams bridge these modes. allowing you to think clearly about what you are feeling while continuing to feel deeply about what you are thinking. This combination appears optimal for integration, the core process of emotional healing. Consciousness meets the unconscious halfway, and in that meeting place, transformation becomes possible. Like standing at the edge of twilight where day and night overlap, seeing details invisible in both bright sunshine and complete darkness. A brief window where everything becomes gently, quietly visible. Human beings require meaning. When something painful happens, the mind searches for a story that makes sense of the suffering, a narrative that places the experience within the larger arc of your life. Trauma disrupts this meaning-making, creating events that refuse to fit, that shatter assumptions about safety, fairness, or personal worth. Healing often involves not finding a pre-existing answer, but creating meaning from what seemed meaningless. Lucid dreams support this creative process. The unconscious communicates through symbols, metaphors, and stories. Becoming lucid while your dreaming mind generates these symbols allows conscious participation in the meaning-making process. The insight that emerges often feels more authentic than intellectually constructed explanations, as though your deeper self already understood something your conscious mind had not yet grasped. Like finding a constellation you never noticed before in a sky you have watched 1,000 times. Suddenly seeing a pattern that was always present, hidden only by your previous way of looking. Quiet transformation deserves recognition. Healing is not always dramatic or cathartic. More often, it is gradual, almost imperceptible, accumulating through small shifts that only become visible in retrospect. One morning you realize the nightmare has not visited in months. One afternoon you notice that a memory which once brought tears now brings only a gentle ache, manageable and strangely tender. Lucid dreams contribute to this slow metamorphosis through repetition, each session adding a thin layer of new learning. Each practice session strengthening neural pathways that support emotional regulation. Small changes compound over time. You do not suddenly become healed. You slowly discover that healing has been happening while you were not watching. Cell by cell, dream by dream, night by quiet night. Like a stone in a river being smoothed so gradually that no single moment of change is visible. Yet over seasons the sharp edges become curves. And what was once rough becomes something you can hold gently in your palm. People who practice lucid dreaming consistently over years describe cumulative benefits that extend well beyond individual therapeutic dreams. They report increased self-awareness throughout daily life, more skillful emotional regulation under stress, reduced baseline anxiety, enhanced creativity in problem-solving, and an improved capacity to question assumptions before reacting. Available research tracking experienced lucid dreamers suggests that regular practice trains metacognitive abilities that persist during waking hours. You become more aware of your own mental patterns, more able to pause before automatic reactions, more skilled at observing thoughts without being swept away by them. Lucid dreaming may function as a nightly mindfulness exercise, strengthening the muscles of awareness through consistent, gentle use. Like a musician who practices scales so faithfully that music begins appearing in unexpected places, in the rhythm of rainfall, in the melody of conversation, in the quiet harmony of an ordinary afternoon. Lucid dreaming carries limitations worth acknowledging honestly. For some individuals, the practice disrupts sleep continuity. making rest feel less restorative. Others develop performance anxiety around achieving lucidity, transforming bedtime from relaxation into a test. For people living with certain mental health conditions, particularly those involving psychosis or severe dissociation, deliberately blurring boundaries between dreaming and waking realities may be inadvisable. Responsible practitioners emphasize that lucid dreaming is one tool among many, not a replacement for professional treatment when such treatment is needed. It works most reliably for people with stable psychological foundations seeking additional growth, or for specific challenges like chronic nightmares that respond well to dream-based interventions. Wisdom includes knowing when a particular approach does not serve you, like knowing that even the gentlest rain can overwhelm a garden if the soil is already saturated. Timing and readiness matter as much as the quality of what is offered. Though lucid dreaming is inherently solitary, occurring within the private theater of individual consciousness, its effects ripple outward into relationships. As you understand your own psychological patterns more clearly, you recognize the same patterns operating in others. As you develop compassion for your own pain, that compassion naturally extends to those around you. As you learn that every mind creates both beauty and terror in its nightly dreams, judgments about other people soften. The internal work of healing yourself expands your capacity for healthy connection with others. Healing is never purely individual. Each person who tends their own wounds radiates that healing outward like warmth from a hearth, invisible but unmistakable, like a single candle lit in a dark room that makes every face in the room visible, not by seeking attention but simply by being what it is. A quiet source of warmth and light that serves everyone present. Perhaps what lucid dreaming ultimately teaches, beyond any specific therapeutic benefit, is presence. The practice of being fully where you are, even when where you are is a dream. Most of waking life unfolds on autopilot, thoughts cycling through familiar patterns without genuine attention. Regular dreams follow this same pattern, narratives playing out without conscious participation. Lucidity interrupts the automation, bringing full awareness into the present moment of the dream. This practice of presence, cultivated night after night, begins influencing waking hours. You find yourself more present in conversations, more attentive to sensory experience, more aware of emotional responses as they arise, rather than after they have already shaped your behavior. Attention itself becomes a form of medicine. Presence itself becomes healing. Like suddenly hearing the birdsong that has been playing outside your window every morning for years. Not because it grew louder, but because you finally grew quiet enough to listen. Many contemplative traditions across cultures have recognized dreams as meaningful territories for transformation, long before modern neuroscience confirmed their insights. Tibetan Buddhist dream yoga cultivates conscious dreaming as spiritual practice. Aboriginal Australian dreamtime traditions treat the dream world as a fundamental dimension of reality. Various indigenous healing systems incorporate dream work as essential to restoring balance. While these traditions frame dreaming in spiritual or philosophical terms rather than neurological ones, the core recognition is remarkably consistent across time and geography. Dreams matter. They can be influenced through conscious intention. They hold potential for profound personal change. Modern research increasingly validates what contemplative practitioners have understood for centuries. Your sleeping mind is not passive, empty, or meaningless. It is alive with purpose. Like discovering that an ancient map dismissed for generations as mythology, actually describes real geography that satellites have only recently confirmed. Old wisdom and new science finally speaking the same language. Your journey with lucid dreaming, if you choose to explore it, will be entirely unique. No one else will dream your dreams. Face your specific fears. Discover your particular insights. Or heal in precisely the way your psyche requires. This individuality is not a limitation, but a gift. There is no correct method, no universal timeline, no standard outcome that defines success. Trust the process your own mind creates. Compare yourself to no one. Your healing moves at the speed your deepest self determines. And that speed is exactly right. Like a river carving its own path through stone, patient and unhurried, knowing that the destination is certain, even though the route has never been traveled before. Let yourself pause here for a moment. Notice where your body meets the surface beneath you, the steady pressure of support that has been holding you this entire time without asking anything in return. Let your breath find its own rhythm. No need to guide it. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest, the soft expansion of your ribs, the warmth of each exhale dissolving into the quiet air around you. You are a living, breathing ecosystem, perfectly self-regulating, quietly miraculous. Now we continue together. The first practical step toward lucid dreaming is learning to notice when you are inside a dream. Dream signs are the recurring oddities your sleeping mind produces. Clues that the rules of waking reality no longer apply. Common signs include text that shifts when you look away and look back. Light switches that fail to change the lighting. Familiar people behaving in entirely uncharacteristic ways. Or physical impossibilities like breathing underwater or floating without effort. Research shows that keeping a dream journal and reviewing entries for recurring themes allows most people to identify their personal dream signs within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent recording. Once these patterns become familiar, you can train yourself to watch for them during sleep, building a mental habit that eventually fires inside the dream itself. Like learning to recognize a friend's footsteps in a hallway. A pattern so familiar that you know who is coming before the door even opens. Awareness, arriving before conscious effort. One of the most researched techniques for inducing lucid dreams is called MILD, mnemonic induction of lucid dreams. Originally developed by Stephen LaBerge at Stanford University. The method relies on intention setting before sleep. As you settle into bed, you repeat a clear statement such as, "Next time I am dreaming, I will remember that I am dreaming." Simultaneously, you visualize a recent dream scene, but this time, imagine yourself recognizing it as a dream. Studies testing this approach report that a meaningful proportion of trained participants can achieve their first lucid dream within approximately 1 week of dedicated practice. The technique works because it programs your sleeping mind with both a goal and a recognition strategy, planting a seed of awareness that can germinate during REM sleep without requiring conscious effort once you are asleep. Like setting a gentle alarm inside your mind, one that rings not with urgency, but with quiet recognition. A soft chime that says, "Ah, yes, I remember now. I am dreaming." The Wake Back to Bed method, known as WBTB, combines sleep architecture, knowledge, with intention, timing. You sleep for roughly 5 hours. Wake briefly for 20 to 60 minutes, engaging in light activity or reading about lucid dreaming. Then return to sleep. This approach works because REM periods grow progressively longer throughout the night, and the final sleep cycles contain the most abundant and vivid dreaming. By briefly waking during this REM-rich period, you prime your prefrontal cortex for metacognitive activity, essentially warming up the brain region responsible for self-awareness just before re-entering the dream state. Research combining WBTB with mild reports substantially higher success rates than either technique alone. The temporary sleep disruption requires discipline, but for those seeking therapeutic benefit from lucid dreams, particularly people working with recurring nightmares, the trade-off often proves worthwhile. Like waking a lighthouse keeper just before the foggiest hour of the night, ensuring the beam is ready precisely when the ships need it most. Timing making all the difference between drifting and arriving safely. Reality testing involves habitually questioning whether you are dreaming throughout your waking day. Common checks include reading text twice to observe whether it remains stable, pressing a finger against your opposite palm to test whether it passes through, examining a clock multiple times to see if the numbers behave logically, or attempting to breathe through a pinched nose. In the dream world, text transforms between glances. Solid objects sometimes yield to pressure. Time displays shift nonsensically, and breathing continues despite a sealed airway. By performing these checks 10 to 20 times daily, while genuinely questioning your state each time, you build a mental routine that eventually executes automatically during sleep. When the reality test produces impossible results inside a dream, that moment of impossibility triggers lucid recognition. Like developing such a keen sense of smell that you notice the difference between real flowers and artificial ones without even looking. Your awareness becoming sensitive enough to detect the subtle wrongness of a dream disguised as ordinary life. Dream recall forms the essential foundation upon which all lucid dreaming practice rests. Most people experience 4 to 6 dream episodes during a typical night of sleep, but forget the vast majority upon waking. Improving recall requires simple but consistent effort. Keep a notebook or recording device within arm's reach. Upon waking, resist the urge to move immediately, as physical motion appears to disrupt the fragile bridge between dream memory and waking consciousness. Lie still for several breaths, allowing any fragments to surface. Then record whatever appears, no matter how incomplete. Studies demonstrate that dream recall improves substantially within 2 weeks of faithful journaling. As your remembered dream library grows, patterns emerge, recurring themes, familiar settings, habitual emotional responses, all of which increase your familiarity with your own dream landscape and make lucid recognition progressively more likely. Like learning to hear the softest notes in a symphony. Sounds that were always present, but required patience and practice to distinguish from the surrounding silence. Emotionally intense dreams appear to trigger spontaneous lucidity more readily than neutral ones. Analysis of large collections of lucid dream reports reveals that strong feelings of fear, confusion, or grief within a dream can act as catalysts for awareness. The emotional intensity seems to partially rouse the prefrontal cortex, generating just enough cognitive activity for the thought, wait, something feels strange, to crystallize into recognition. This pattern explains why many people experience their first spontaneous lucid dream during a nightmare, the fear itself becoming the signal that wakes awareness within the dream. For therapeutic purposes, this finding offers quiet encouragement. The very dreams that most need conscious attention, the emotionally charged ones, carrying unprocessed pain, may be precisely the ones where lucidity is most naturally accessible, like a smoke alarm that activates specifically when danger is present, not preventing the fire, but giving you the awareness needed to respond wisely, rather than simply react in blind panic. Maintaining lucidity once achieved presents its own challenge. The excitement of realizing you are dreaming frequently triggers an arousal surge that collapses the dream state entirely, pulling you into full wakefulness within seconds. Experienced practitioners develop stabilization strategies through trial and experience. Common methods include rubbing your dream hands together to generate sustained tactile input, spinning your dream body to reset the visual environment, or deliberately examining fine details in the dream scene, such as the texture of a wall or the pattern of light on water. These actions occupy enough neural resources to maintain the dream without increasing cortical arousal past the waking threshold. First, lucid dreams often last mere seconds. With practice, some individuals sustain lucidity for 15 to 20 minutes or longer within a single REM period, providing meaningful time for therapeutic work. Like learning to hold a soap bubble on your fingertip, discovering through gentle practice exactly how much attention steadies it and how much pressure causes it to vanish. The skill becoming natural only after many beautiful, brief attempts. An interesting philosophical question divides lucid dreaming communities regarding whether dream content should be actively controlled or passively observed. Some practitioners believe dreams express unconscious wisdom that should be witnessed without interference, allowing the deeper mind to communicate freely. Others argue that deliberate participation is not only valid but therapeutically essential, especially when working with nightmares or trauma residue. Research does not declare either approach superior, but suggests different outcomes for each. Passive lucid dreaming, observing with gentle awareness without manipulating content, appears to enhance insight, self-understanding, and acceptance. Active lucid dreaming, deliberately altering scenarios or confronting dream figures, shows greater effectiveness for reducing nightmare distress and building behavioral confidence. Perhaps the wisest approach alternates between both, sometimes watching, sometimes participating, letting the dream's content guide which response serves healing best. Like learning when to steer a boat and when to simply raise the sails and let the wind decide your direction. Wisdom lying not in always choosing one approach, but in sensing which the moment requires. Recent technological developments have explored using external cues to facilitate lucid dream induction. Wearable devices designed to detect REM sleep through eye movement patterns or changes in brain electrical activity can deliver gentle sensory signals. Faint lights visible through closed eyelids or soft audio tones, calibrated to penetrate the dream without fully disrupting sleep. The dreamer, having trained to recognize these cues as indicators of the dream state, ideally achieves lucidity upon detecting them. Published research on these devices shows mixed but gradually improving results. Some users report substantially increased lucid dream frequency. Others find the cues either too subtle to register or too disruptive, awakening them entirely. As sensor technology refines and algorithms for identifying optimal intervention timing improve, these tools may eventually complement traditional induction techniques effectively. Like a friend gently tapping your shoulder during a movie to remind you it is only a movie. The tap ideally light enough to deliver the message without breaking the spell of the story. Children naturally experience lucid dreams more frequently than adults, though they may not have language to describe the experience. Developmental research indicates that children between roughly 7 and 12 years of age report particularly high rates of spontaneous lucid recognition during dreams. This peak may correspond to the rapid expansion of metacognitive ability during those developmental years. The brain practicing its newly developing capacity for self-reflection across both waking and sleeping states. Interestingly, many children instinctively use dream awareness to cope with nightmares, discovering independently that they can modify frightening dream content. Some developmental psychologists suggest this natural capacity does not disappear in adulthood, but simply falls into disuse, forgotten, or dismissed as imagination. Teaching lucid dreaming techniques to children experiencing persistent nightmares shows encouraging preliminary results, offering them a sense of mastery over their interior world. Like rediscovering a language you spoke fluently as a child, but stopped using. The grammar still stored somewhere in memory, waiting for someone to remind you that you already know the words. Therapeutic change through lucid dreaming involves pattern recognition, operating at multiple levels simultaneously. First, you learn to recognize patterns in your dreams that signal you are dreaming. Then you recognize patterns in your emotional responses that reveal where attention is needed. Finally, you recognize patterns in how changing dream behavior shifts emotional outcomes. Researchers tracking nightmare sufferers learning lucid dreaming document a characteristic progression. Initial lucid moments are brief and unstable. Gradually, practitioners maintain awareness long enough to experiment with alternative responses. Eventually, they develop preferred strategies for handling recurring threats that consistently reduce distress. This multi-layered learning mirrors how all deep behavioral change occurs, not through a single transformative event, but through the gradual recognition and modification of habitual patterns. Each small adjustment building on the last, like learning to dance. First finding the rhythm, then learning the basic steps, then discovering that your body knows variations your mind never planned. Grace arriving through patient repetition. Dream mirrors present a fascinating tool for self-exploration during lucid dreams. When lucid dreamers deliberately seek out mirrors within the dream environment, the reflections they encounter rarely correspond. Instead, dream mirrors may show distorted versions, younger or older iterations of the self, or even entirely unfamiliar faces. Psychologists who work with lucid dreamers suggest these non-literal reflections can reveal how the unconscious mind perceives the self. Surfacing body image concerns, aging anxieties, identity questions, or hidden self-perceptions that waking awareness has not acknowledged. While controlled studies are limited, anecdotal reports consistently describe these mirror encounters as emotionally significant, sometimes uncomfortably revealing, sometimes surprisingly tender, always offering information about the relationship between who you believe yourself to be and who you actually are beneath the surface. Like catching your reflection in an unexpected window and seeing not your face but your feelings. Every hidden thought, written plainly across features that belong to you and yet seem to belong to someone you have not met until this very moment. Practicing boundary setting within lucid dreams translates into real-world interpersonal skills with surprising effectiveness. In ordinary dreams, events happen to you without consent. Figures appear uninvited. Scenarios unfold beyond your control. In lucid dreams, you can practice saying no to intrusive dream characters, establishing emotional perimeters, asking unwanted presences to leave. This might seem purely symbolic. After all, dream figures are constructions of your own mind. Yet research on assertiveness training demonstrates that mental rehearsal improves actual behavior. The emotional experience of successfully setting a boundary registers neurologically regardless of whether the situation was physically real. Lucid dreamers who practice establishing personal limits in dreams frequently report increased confidence in setting boundaries within waking relationships. The skill transferring from the rehearsal space into daily life, like practicing a difficult conversation in front of a mirror until the words feel natural in your mouth, discovering that when the real moment arrives, your voice already knows what to say and how to say it with quiet steadiness. Asking dream figures questions during lucid dreams can yield surprisingly coherent and emotionally meaningful responses. Since all dream characters are generated by your own mind, these conversations represent communication between conscious and unconscious aspects of your psyche. The dream figure is not truly separate from you, but embodies knowledge, perspectives, or emotional states that your waking awareness has not integrated. Approaching dream characters with genuine curiosity rather than fear or dismissal can facilitate remarkable internal dialogue. Questions like, "What do you need from me? What are you trying to tell me?" Or "What do I need to understand?" often receive answers that feel simultaneously unexpected and deeply familiar, as though a part of you always knew the answer, but needed the dream to provide a stage where it could finally be spoken aloud. Like having a conversation with a pen pal you have written to for years and finally meeting in person. Recognizing the voice instantly, despite never having heard it before. Already intimate. Already known. The default mode network is a system of interconnected brain regions that becomes active during rest, daydreaming, and self-referential thought. During normal waking, this network supports introspection, memory retrieval, and imagining future scenarios. Brain imaging studies reveal that the default mode network behaves in distinctive ways during lucid REM sleep, showing activation patterns that differ from both ordinary dreaming and normal waking consciousness. This unique neural signature may partially explain why lucid dreams feel qualitatively different from either state. Neither fully awake nor fully asleep, but occupying a third territory with its own properties and possibilities. The combination of self-reflective capacity, reduced inhibition, and access to emotionally charged memory creates conditions that may support forms of self-understanding unavailable in any other state of consciousness. Like finding a room in your house you never knew existed, one that connects the kitchen to the attic through a passage that bypasses every floor. A shortcut between the parts of yourself you use daily and the parts you visit only in memory. Rest here for a moment now. Let these ideas settle like leaves drifting down through still autumn air. Notice the temperature of your hands, the gentle pressure behind your eyelids, the rhythm your breathing has found without your guidance. You are doing nothing wrong, and nothing needs to change in this exact moment. Simply existing is enough. The universe continues its slow unfurling whether you watch or not. Let the next cluster of thoughts arrive whenever they are ready. There is no hurry here. Nightmares may feel like the opposite of healing, yet they often represent your brain's earnest attempts to process threatening or overwhelming experiences. When something frightens or traumatizes you, the amygdala encodes that memory with high emotional intensity, essentially flagging it as requiring further processing. During REM sleep, The brain replays variations of the threatening experience, testing different responses, rehearsing reactions, attempting to integrate what happened into your broader understanding of the world. This is why trauma survivors frequently dream about threatening scenarios that echo the original event without precisely replicating it. The difficulty emerges when the nightmare becomes so distressing that it gently rouses you before the emotional arc reaches completion. You wake in terror, the processing interrupted. Studies reveal that nightmares which reach some form of conclusion, even an unpleasant one, prove less distressing over time than those that wake the dreamer mid-crisis. Completion appears to matter more than happy endings. Your dreaming mind wants to finish what it started. Like a musician who keeps returning to the same difficult passage in a piece, not because of failure, but because the music demands resolution. Each attempt bringing the hands closer to the notes that will finally let the melody complete itself. In ordinary nightmares, you experience whatever the dream generates without choice or perspective. Trapped in the emotional weather of the scene, lucid awareness transforms this dynamic fundamentally. Laboratory studies measuring physiological responses show that when dreamers achieve lucidity during a nightmare, stress indicators, including heart rate and skin conductance, decrease even while the frightening dream content continues unchanged. The simple recognition that this is a dream creates cognitive distance that interrupts the automatic fear cascade. Your partially reactivated prefrontal cortex can evaluate the apparent threat rationally. I am safe in my bed. This is imagery generated by my own mind. I am not in danger. This awareness does not eliminate the dream, but changes your relationship to it, creating space between the frightening stimulus and your emotional response. That space is where therapeutic work becomes possible, like watching a thunderstorm from inside a warm house rather than standing exposed in the rain. The storm equally powerful in both cases, but your experience of it entirely different. Fear giving way to something closer to awe. One of the most therapeutically significant aspects of lucid dreaming is the restoration of agency. The felt experience of having choice and influence within a situation. In regular dreams, and especially nightmares, events happen to you. You are carried along by the narrative, unable to alter course. In lucid dreams, you can make decisions, alter your behavior, choose responses that differ from your habitual patterns. This matters profoundly because perceived helplessness deepens emotional wounds. When trauma survivors feel unable to influence what is happening to them, the psychological damage intensifies. Lucid dreaming provides a controlled environment to practice agency. You can choose to face the threatening figure rather than flee. You can choose to observe calmly rather than react with panic. You can choose to transform the dream environment into something safe. Studies suggest that even imagined agency in dreams can gradually strengthen real-world feelings of empowerment, slowly rebuilding the sense of personal control that traumatic experiences so often destroy. Like being given the steering wheel after spending years as a passenger in a car that seemed to drive itself. Discovering that the road responds to your hands, that direction was always possible, that you were never as powerless as the journey made you feel. Lucid dreams appear to facilitate the process neuroscientists call memory reconsolidation, a mechanism by which recalled memories become temporarily unstable and open to modification before being stored again. When you encounter a frightening scenario in a lucid dream, while simultaneously experiencing safety and control, you are adding new emotional information to the original fear memory. The brain stores this updated version, one that includes, "I faced this situation, and I was okay," alongside the original distress. Research on memory reconsolidation suggests that emotional memories are particularly susceptible to revision during this window of instability. The combination of memory activation during sleep and new emotional learning during lucidity may create ideal conditions for updating traumatic memories with less distressing associations, softening the emotional charge without erasing the factual content. Like editing a photograph not to remove the storm clouds but to add a rainbow the camera missed. The scene's still real, still honest, but now containing something hopeful that changes how you feel when you look at it. Your brain's own neurochemistry during REM sleep creates remarkably favorable conditions for emotional processing. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, drops to its lowest levels during the early morning REM periods, when the longest and most vivid dreams occur. Psychiatrist Matthew Walker's research describes this low cortisol environment as allowing the brain to revisit emotional experiences without triggering the full stress response, essentially creating a neurochemically safe therapy session that your brain conducts for itself every night. When lucid awareness occurs within this already protected state, you gain the ability to consciously direct attention and intention while maintaining the biochemical safety that the sleep state provides. It is an elegant combination, aware enough to participate meaningfully, relaxed enough to avoid re-traumatization, like visiting a difficult place in memory while wrapped in the warmest blanket you have ever felt. The memory still present, but the surrounding warmth changing everything about how your body responds to it. Research on post-traumatic stress disorder has begun exploring lucid dream training as a complementary intervention for veterans and other trauma survivors experiencing recurring distressing dreams. Traditional PTSD treatments, including cognitive behavioral therapy and EMDR, focus primarily on waking memory processing. Yet sleep disturbances frequently persist even after successful daytime treatment. Preliminary clinical studies investigating lucid dreaming techniques for PTSD-related nightmares show encouraging results. Participants who learned lucid dreaming skills reported reductions in both nightmare frequency and emotional intensity after several weeks of practice. Perhaps more importantly, they described feeling less helpless in their daily lives, as though the experience of exercising choice within the dream state transferred to a broader sense of personal agency. Researchers hypothesize that rebuilding the capacity for control within the previously uncontrollable nightmare space may help restore the fundamental sense of personal power that traumatic experiences erode. Like discovering that the locked room you feared for years actually has a key, and that the key was in your pocket the entire time, waiting for you to reach for it. Imagery, rehearsal therapy, abbreviated IRT, is an established clinical treatment for chronic nightmares. The approach asks patients to recall a recurring nightmare while awake, then consciously rewrite the dream with a different, less distressing outcome. This revised version is then rehearsed mentally multiple times daily, training the brain to expect an alternative resolution. Research demonstrates that IRT reduces nightmare frequency in a substantial proportion of patients, with some studies reporting improvements between 50 and 70% when practiced consistently over several weeks. Combining IRT with lucid dream training appears to enhance outcomes further. If you achieve lucidity during the actual nightmare, you can implement the rehearsed alternative ending in real time, experiencing the changed outcome firsthand rather than merely imagining it while awake. Participants using this combined approach report faster improvement and a stronger sense of mastery over their dream life, like rehearsing a play so thoroughly that when opening night brings unexpected moments, you improvise naturally because the character has become part of you. Preparation and spontaneity working together seamlessly. One of dreaming's gifts is providing a container of absolute physical safety for exploring dangerous emotional territory. No matter what unfolds within a dream, you cannot be physically harmed. This safety creates what therapists call a holding environment for difficult feelings. In waking life, directly confronting certain fears carries genuine risk. Revisiting a traumatic location, facing someone who caused harm, fully expressing suppressed rage. All of these present real-world complications and potential consequences. In the lucid dream space, you can approach these experiences gradually, at your own pace, with the knowledge that overwhelming intensity will simply result in waking up. Research suggests this psychological safety permits deeper emotional exploration than might be possible through waking therapy alone. You can test responses, practice assertiveness, express emotions you have learned to suppress, all within the protected architecture of your own sleeping mind. Like having an infinitely patient practice partner who never tires, never judges, and always allows you to begin again whenever you need to. The perfect training ground for learning skills your waking world demands, but rarely lets you rehearse safely. Serotonin, a neurotransmitter centrally involved in mood regulation, decreases to very low levels during REM sleep. This reduction contributes to the emotionally vivid, associatively loose quality of dreams. Serotonin normally helps keep thoughts organized and sequential. Without its regulatory influence, the dreaming mind makes unexpected connections, juxtaposes unrelated memories, and generates the bizarre imagery that characterizes vivid dreams. While this might seem counterproductive for therapeutic work, researchers suggest that the loosening of logical constraints actually supports creative problem-solving around emotional issues. Sometimes the solution to an emotional dilemma arrives not from thinking harder within familiar patterns, but from thinking differently, allowing novel associations that waking logic would reject. The dream state's neurochemical environment actively supports this alternative processing style. When lucid awareness enters this loosened associative space, you may access insights genuinely unavailable to your normally structured waking mind. Like shaking a kaleidoscope that has been stuck in one pattern for years. Watching the same pieces rearrange into something unexpectedly beautiful. The fragments unchanged, but the relationship between them completely transformed. The amygdala, your brain's primary emotional alarm center, remains vigilantly active throughout REM sleep, which explains why fear appears so frequently, even in dreams, without obviously threatening content. The amygdala interprets ambiguous dream imagery as potentially dangerous. A hypervigilance inherited from evolutionary ancestors for whom sleeping represented genuine vulnerability. When you become lucid during a dream colored by amygdala-driven fear, your partially reactivated prefrontal cortex can send calming signals to the emotional alarm system, essentially communicating that the perceived threat is not real. Neuroimaging studies confirm that this conscious awareness can reduce amygdala activation even while the frightening visual content persists. The alarm continues sounding, but the rational mind recognizes it as a false alarm, and the volume gradually decreases. Like gently placing your hand over a vibrating alarm clock, not silencing it entirely, but muffling the urgency until the sound becomes something you can rest alongside rather than something that jolts you into panic. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter most associated with motivation, reward, and learning, plays a nuanced role in both dreaming and lucid dreaming. During REM sleep, dopamine levels fluctuate in ways that influence dream vividness and emotional coloring. Research suggests that slightly elevated dopamine may increase the probability of achieving lucidity, possibly because dopamine supports the goal-directed thinking that intention-setting techniques rely upon. More intriguingly, achieving lucidity itself appears to activate reward circuitry. The moment of recognizing you are dreaming registers as a small triumph, a successful detection that the brain rewards with a pleasant neurochemical signal. This reward response reinforces the neural pathways supporting lucid recognition, creating a positive feedback loop. The brain literally encourages you to practice the skill by making success feel good. An elegant, self-reinforcing system that may explain why some people become deeply engaged with lucid dreaming practice after even a single successful experience. Like discovering that the act of noticing beauty actually makes your brain produce more of the chemical that helps you notice beauty. A virtuous cycle where awareness feeds itself and grows stronger with each use. One of REM sleep's primary evolutionary functions appears to be the consolidation and emotional regulation of memories, deciding which experiences to strengthen, which to let fade, and how to integrate emotional content into your ongoing life story. Research demonstrates that individuals deprived of REM sleep show measurably impaired emotional regulation the following day, becoming more reactive to minor frustrations, more anxious in ambiguous situations, and more easily overwhelmed by demands that normally feel manageable. REM dreaming allows the brain to replay emotionally significant experiences without engaging the full biochemical stress response, gradually reducing emotional intensity while preserving factual accuracy. This process happens automatically every night without any conscious effort. When you become lucid during this natural consolidation process, you are essentially participating intentionally in your own memory editing, choosing which emotional content to engage with rather than leaving the selection entirely to automatic processes. Like being invited into the editing room of a film about your own life, watching the rough cuts and having a voice in which scenes receive emphasis and which gently fade. Your story, shaped by collaboration between the conscious director and the unconscious cinematographer. Dreams often express emotional content through symbolic language rather than literal representation. Your unresolved argument with a loved one might manifest as a battle with a stranger. Your fear of professional failure might appear as falling from a great height or arriving unprepared for an examination. This symbolic processing is not random neurological noise. Research suggests the dreaming brain employs metaphor specifically to create emotional distance from overwhelming material, making painful content approachable by disguising it in narrative clothing. In ordinary dreams, you typically do not recognize these symbols for what they represent. In lucid dreams, the combination of immersion and reflective awareness sometimes allows real-time interpretation. Lucid dreamers report moments of sudden clarity within the dream itself, recognizing that the pursuing shadow represents their own anxiety, or that the crumbling building symbolizes a relationship they fear is collapsing. This in-dream insight may allow more immediate and visceral processing than either pure dreaming or waking analysis alone. Like understanding suddenly that the foreign language you have been hearing in the background is actually your own language spoken with a different accent. The meaning was there all along, waiting for your ear to adjust. The scientific study of dreams is experiencing a renaissance after decades of neglect. For much of the 20th century, dreams were dismissed as either meaningless neural static or purely symbolic puzzles requiring external interpretation. Contemporary neuroscience tells a different story. Dreams serve measurable functions in memory consolidation, emotional regulation, threat simulation, and creative problem solving. Lucid dreaming research, specifically, has expanded dramatically since the early 2000s, with laboratories worldwide developing standardized training protocols, measuring physiological changes during lucidity, and testing clinical applications for conditions ranging from chronic nightmares to anxiety disorders to creative blocks. The field has progressed from debating whether lucid dreams facilitate healing to investigating how they do so and identifying which individuals benefit most from different approaches. Your sleeping mind, far from being a passive receiver of random neural signals, stands revealed as an active, sophisticated system working continuously on your behalf. Like realizing that the background music you barely noticed in a restaurant has been a full orchestra all along, complete with melody, harmony, and rhythm, performing a complex composition you simply were not listening closely enough to hear. Let yourself float here for a moment. Imagine your thoughts as clouds passing across a vast sky, each one arriving without effort, each one departing without resistance. You do not need to hold any of them. You do not need to push any of them away. Simply watch them travel across the open space of your awareness. Some bright, some dark, all temporary, all perfectly natural. The sky itself remains unchanged, regardless of what passes through it. You are the sky. Now we continue. Somewhere inside every dreaming mind exists the capacity for a peculiar double awareness. The ability to be simultaneously immersed in a dream and observing it from a slight distance. A lucid dream is precisely this state. A dream in which you recognize that you are dreaming while the dream continues around you. Unlike ordinary dreams where you accept impossible scenarios without question, in a lucid dream, a part of your mind activates that thinks clearly, evaluates critically, and remembers that you are actually asleep in bed. This is not waking up. The dream persists in full sensory richness, but consciousness adds a new dimension to the experience, transforming you from passive audience into aware participant. Like watching a play from the stage itself, still inside the scenery, still hearing the music, still feeling the lights, but knowing now that you are both character and audience, free to improvise while the story continues to unfold around you. Brain imaging research has identified specific neural signatures that distinguish lucid from non-lucid REM sleep. During ordinary dreaming, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, a region essential for self-awareness, logical reasoning, and working memory, shows markedly reduced activity. This explains why regular dreams feel so accepting of impossibility. You fly without surprise, encounter deceased relatives without confusion, navigate architectural impossibilities without question, because the brain region responsible for critical evaluation has largely gone quiet. During lucid REM episodes, this same prefrontal region shows increased gamma wave activity, a neural signature associated with conscious processing and focused attention. Simultaneously, the frontopolar cortex, involved in higher-order self-reflection, becomes more active. Yet the brain remains architecturally in REM sleep. Visual cortex generating imagery, limbic system producing emotion, motor cortex simulating movement. This hybrid state gives you more cognitive control than in regular dreams, while preserving the immersive emotional environment that makes dream experiences feel profoundly real. Like turning on a reading lamp in a room that was illuminated only by candlelight. Everything suddenly clearer and more detailed, yet the warmth of the candles still present. The atmosphere enhanced rather than replaced by the additional light. Surveys spanning multiple countries and encompassing tens of thousands of participants reveal that lucid dreaming is far more common than most people assume. Approximately 55% of adults report having experienced at least one spontaneous lucid dream during their lifetime. Roughly 23% report experiencing them monthly, and about 1% describe lucid dreams occurring several times per week without deliberate induction. These frequencies vary across age groups and cultural contexts, with children and teenagers reporting substantially higher rates than adults. The prevalence data suggests that lucid dreaming is not an exotic ability possessed by a select few, but a natural human capacity. A feature of normal brain function that manifests spontaneously in the majority of the population at least once. Your brain already possesses the neural architecture for this experience. The question is not whether you can do it, but whether you notice when it happens. Like learning that the rare wildflower you spent years searching for actually grows in meadows you walk through every week. Not exotic at all, but simply overlooked because you did not know what to look for. Lucid dreams occur almost exclusively during REM sleep, the stage that produces your most vivid and emotionally complex dream experiences. REM stands for rapid eye movement, named for the characteristic darting motions visible beneath closed eyelids during this phase. Your brain during REM is remarkably active, consuming oxygen and glucose at rates comparable to alert wakefulness. Yet your voluntary muscles remain temporarily paralyzed, a safety mechanism called rematonia that prevents physical enactment of dream movements. Only the muscles controlling eye movement and respiration remain functional. When lucidity arises within this state, a striking paradox emerges. Your mind achieves waking-like clarity and self-awareness, while your neurochemistry remains in full dream mode, generating vivid imagery, intense emotion, and the immersive sensory richness that makes dreams feel indistinguishable from lived experience. Like being wide awake inside a painting, seeing every brushstroke clearly while the colors continue to move and breathe around you. Aware that you are inside art, and yet the art remains completely alive. While humans have reported conscious experiences during dreams for centuries across cultures, scientific verification only arrived in the late 1970s. Researcher Stephen LaBerge at Stanford University devised an elegant experimental protocol exploiting the fact that eye muscles remain active during REM sleep. Before falling asleep in a monitored laboratory, participants who had demonstrated lucid dreaming ability agreed to perform a specific predetermined eye movement pattern. Left, right, the moment they recognized they were dreaming. Sleep monitoring equipment recorded brain waves, muscle tone, and eye movements continuously throughout the night. When participants entered REM sleep and achieved lucidity, they executed the agreed-upon signals. The laboratory instruments captured these deliberate eye movements occurring within confirmed REM sleep, providing objective physical evidence that conscious voluntary action was possible inside the dream state. This landmark experiment fundamentally altered sleep science, demonstrating that communication from within a dream to the waking world could be reliably achieved, like receiving a letter from someone you were told could not possibly write. The handwriting unmistakably theirs. Proof that awareness persists in places science had assumed were empty of it. Emotional healing, understood through the lens of neuroscience, involves changing how your brain stores and responds to painful memories. When a distressing event occurs, the brain encodes not only the factual details, but also the full emotional response. Fear, helplessness, shock, grief. The amygdala tags these memories with intense emotional markers, and each subsequent recall can reactivate those feelings with nearly original intensity. Healing does not require erasing the memory. Instead, it involves a process called reconsolidation, gradually weakening the emotional charge attached to the factual record. Your hippocampus, the brain region responsible for contextual and temporal memory, learns to locate the event firmly in the past, rather than experiencing it as a continuing present tense threat. You remember what happened without reliving the pain each time. Emotional healing is fundamentally a process of neural rewriting. The same memory stored in a new emotional wrapper, like changing the frame around a photograph you cannot discard. The image unchanged, but the frame transforming it from something that wounds every time you see it into something you can look at with quiet acceptance. The sharp edges softened by context. Your brain preferentially selects emotional memories for processing during sleep, particularly during REM dreaming. Functional brain imaging reveals that the amygdala and hippocampus, the two structures most central to emotional memory, maintain high activity during REM sleep, even as the prefrontal cortex substantially quiets. This configuration creates ideal conditions for emotional work. Without the prefrontal cortex imposing logical constraints, the dreaming mind approaches painful material from unexpected angles, blending difficult memories with other experiences, creating metaphors and symbolic narratives that make overwhelming content more approachable. Simultaneously, norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter closely associated with the fight or flight response, drops to extremely low concentrations during REM. This neurochemical shift allows your brain to revisit emotionally charged memories without triggering the full physiological stress cascade. REM sleep functions as something like an automatic overnight therapy session. Your brain methodically revisiting difficult experiences in an environment specifically designed for safe emotional processing, like entering a room where the lights have been dimmed and soft music is playing. The difficult conversation still happening, but the atmosphere deliberately arranged to make it as bearable as possible. Every element of the setting designed to support rather than intensify the exchange. Dreams feel intensely real because your brain processes dream experiences using the identical neural circuits it employs for waking experience. When you dream about running, your motor cortex generates activation patterns indistinguishable from actual running, prevented from producing physical movement only by REM atonia. When you dream about fear, your amygdala produces genuine fear signals, complete with measurable changes in heart rate and skin conductance. Functional imaging confirms that emotional responses during dreams are not simulations or diluted rehearsals. They are authentic neurological events producing real physiological consequences. This explains why dream emotions persist after waking. why a particularly vivid nightmare can cast a shadow over an entire morning. The feelings were neurologically genuine, even though the triggering circumstances were imaginary. Your emotional brain makes no clear distinction between dreamed experience and lived experience, processing both with equal seriousness and equal physiological commitment. Like the way your body produces real tears during a sad film. Knowing intellectually that the characters are fictional, but responding emotionally as though the story were happening to someone you love. The heart unable to distinguish acted sorrow from genuine grief. Recent neuroplasticity research has revealed that the sleeping brain is not merely replaying memories, but actively reorganizing neural connections, strengthening some pathways while pruning others based on emotional significance and survival relevance. During slow-wave sleep in the first half of the night, newly formed memories are transferred from temporary hippocampal storage to more permanent cortical locations. During REM sleep in the second half, these memories are emotionally reprocessed, their associations reorganized, their emotional intensity recalibrated. This two-phase system means that by morning, you literally have a different brain than you had when you fell asleep. Neural architecture, subtly reshaped by 8 hours of unconscious construction work. Lucid dreaming occurs primarily during the longer REM periods of the second half of the night, placing it precisely within the phase when emotional memory reorganization is most active. Like a librarian who works the night shift, quietly reorganizing shelves while the building is empty, moving volumes to more logical locations, creating new connections between sections, ensuring that when the doors open tomorrow morning, everything is easier to find and makes more sense together. Acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter crucial for attention, learning, and memory formation, surges to high levels during REM sleep. This neurochemical environment contributes to the extraordinary vividness and memorability of dreams, creating experiences that register with the intensity of lived events. The elevated acetylcholine during REM may partially explain why emotionally significant dreams feel so impactful upon waking, and why dream-based emotional processing appears to produce lasting changes. Combined with the low norepinephrine and low cortisol characteristic of REM, this neurochemical cocktail creates a unique processing environment, highly engaged attentionally, yet remarkably low in stress activation. When lucid awareness enters this carefully balanced neurochemical state, you gain conscious access to an environment your brain has specifically engineered for safe, intensive emotional work. Like arriving at a workshop where every tool has already been laid out in perfect order, the lighting adjusted for precision work, the temperature set for comfort. Everything prepared by someone who anticipated exactly what would be needed. Your only task to pick up the tools and begin. Behavioral rehearsal in lucid dreams, practicing emotional responses and interpersonal skills within the immersive dream environment, activates neural pathways substantially similar to those engaged during actual waking performance. When you rehearse confronting a feared situation in a lucid dream, your motor cortex, emotional circuitry, and language centers all participate as though the confrontation were genuinely occurring. Athletes have long used mental visualization to refine physical skills, and neuroscience confirms that vividly imagined practice produces measurable performance improvement. Lucid dreams offer an even more immersive rehearsal space than waking visualization, because the dream environment surrounds you completely and your emotional systems engage with full authenticity. Practicing assertiveness, courage, or emotional expression in this space does not feel trivial or imaginary to the brain. The neural patterns established during dream rehearsal become available as resources when similar situations arise in waking life. Like an actor who has rehearsed a scene so many times that when the cameras finally roll, the performance feels not practiced but natural. The preparation invisible because it has been fully absorbed into instinct. Many lucid dreamers describe experiencing greater emotional courage in dreams than they can access during waking hours. Freed from real-world consequences and social constraints, research suggests this dream courage is not merely fantasy, but produces measurable transfer effects. Someone who practices speaking honestly to a dream representation of an intimidating authority figure may find genuine assertiveness more accessible in subsequent waking interactions with that person. The brain does not neatly separate rehearsed courage from spontaneous courage. The neural pattern of feeling fear and acting meaningfully despite it, once established through any sufficiently vivid experience, becomes part of your behavioral repertoire regardless of where it was first practiced. Like discovering that swimming in a dream pool made you less afraid of the real ocean. The water, remembering your body's confidence, even when your mind forgot the dream that taught it. Some practitioners deliberately use lucid dreams as spaces for forgiveness work, either offering forgiveness to others or receiving the self-forgiveness they have been unable to grant themselves while awake. In the dream space, you can create encounters with people who have caused harm, expressing pain you never articulated, receiving apologies that may never come in waking life, or extending forgiveness you have struggled to find within yourself. While these interactions are imagined rather than interpersonal, psychological research on forgiveness consistently demonstrates that the internal process matters more than external validation. Forgiveness is ultimately about releasing your own emotional burden rather than requiring anything from the other person. Lucid dreams provide a controlled, private environment for working through this internal process at whatever pace feels safe, retreating when overwhelmed, returning when ready, gradually reducing the emotional charge surrounding old relational wounds. Like writing a letter you never planned to send. Discovering that the act of putting words to feelings provides relief regardless of whether the intended recipient ever reads them. The healing in the writing itself, rather than in any response. People experiencing complicated grief sometimes find unexpected solace in lucid dream encounters with deceased loved ones. In ordinary dreams, meeting someone who has died can produce confusion and renewed anguish, particularly upon waking and remembering the loss. In lucid dreams, you can consciously choose to engage with the dream representation of the person, saying things that were left unspoken, asking questions that remain unanswered, expressing love or receiving comfort, all while clearly understanding that you are interacting with your own mind's construction rather than the actual person. Research on complicated grief suggests these conscious dream encounters can facilitate acceptance and emotional closure for certain individuals, not by creating delusion but by providing a safe internal space for completing emotional business that the external world no longer permits. Like visiting a garden someone you loved once tended, knowing they are no longer there, but feeling their presence in every planted row, every blooming thing they touched still growing, still beautiful, still carrying something of who they were into the world they left behind. The architecture of a typical night's sleep follows predictable patterns that influence when and how lucid dreams occur. Deep non-REM sleep dominates the first several hours, supporting physical restoration and the initial transfer of new memories from short-term to long-term storage. REM periods appear cyclically throughout the night, but grow progressively longer toward morning, with the final 2 to 3 cycles containing the most extended and emotionally complex dream episodes. This means lucid dreams are both more likely and potentially longer lasting during morning sleep. When REM periods can extend to 30 or 40 minutes, for therapeutic purposes, this timing carries practical significance. Morning lucid dreams provide the most generous windows for sustained emotional work, occurring precisely when cortisol is beginning its natural pre-waking rise. But REM processing continues, creating a neurochemical balance that may be particularly supportive of conscious emotional exploration. Like discovering that the deepest conversations always seem to happen in the early morning hours, when defenses are down and honesty comes more easily. The night, having done its quiet preparatory work before dawn, offers its gentle clarity. Sleep itself, entirely apart from lucid dreaming, is a profound gift that deserves recognition and gratitude. 8 hours daily when the world's demands pause. 8 hours when the body repairs damaged tissue, clears metabolic waste from the brain, consolidates learning, regulates hormones, and processes the emotional residue of everything you experienced while awake. Lucid dreaming adds conscious awareness to this already remarkable process, but should never overshadow the fundamental value of simple, uninterrupted rest. Sometimes the deepest healing comes not from lucid intervention, but from surrendering completely to sleep's own wisdom, allowing your brain to work without management, trusting that rest itself restores what needs restoring. Sleep heals with or without lucidity. Both approaches have their place, and wisdom lies in knowing when to participate and when to simply let go. Like knowing when to steer the boat and when to simply lie back and let the current carry you. Trusting that the river knows where it is going, even when you cannot see around the next bend. So could lucid dreams gently heal your emotions? The converging evidence from neuroscience, clinical psychology, and centuries of contemplative practice says yes. Not through dramatic overnight transformation, but through patient, gradual engagement with your own natural healing processes. Fear memories become less electrically charged. Nightmare frequency diminishes. Emotional regulation improves measurably. Self-compassion deepens. The sense of personal agency strengthens. These changes emerge not as separate benefits, but as natural consequences of conscious cooperation with the sophisticated emotional processing system your brain already operates every night. What is perhaps most remarkable is that this capacity exists within nearly every human being. You require no special talent, no expensive equipment, no extraordinary training. Your brain already creates dreams, already processes emotions during sleep, already possesses the neural architecture for conscious awareness within the dream state. Lucid dreaming simply illuminates a room that was always there, revealing resources you have always possessed, inviting you to participate in work your mind has been doing on your behalf since the very first night you ever slept. Be gentle with yourself in this exploration. Not every night will produce a lucid dream. Not every lucid dream will address the issue you intended. Some nights your brain needs undisturbed rest more than conscious exploration. Honor these natural rhythms. The goal is not to force lucidity, but to offer your awareness as gentle support when it is welcome, and to step back respectfully when it is not needed. Your deepest self knows what serves you best. And now, Let everything you have heard tonight begin to dissolve like morning frost in the first pale light of dawn. You do not need to hold any of it. Let the facts and the metaphors and the science all drift away like dandelion seeds on a breath of warm wind. What remains is simpler than knowledge. What remains is the quiet certainty that within you, right now, lives everything needed for healing. Your sleeping mind is wiser than your waking worries. Your dreaming self is braver than your daylight doubts. And tonight, as every night, that extraordinary inner healer goes to work the moment you let go. Let your body settle into absolute stillness now. Feel gravity as a gentle invitation rather than a force, pulling you softly downward into warmth, into safety, into the deep quiet where restoration lives. Your breath slows without your permission. Your thoughts thin like clouds dissolving into an endless evening sky. If this quiet journey through the healing landscape of dreams brought you peace tonight, a gentle like or subscribe helps another sleepy soul find this sanctuary. One small tap, one restful mind, one more person discovering that healing happens in the quiet hours. But there is no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. If sleep is arriving, welcome it, like an old friend returning after a long absence. Let it wrap around you completely. Let consciousness release its hold, knowing that deeper processes will continue their tender work through every hour of darkness, mending what needs mending, softening what needs softening, restoring what daylight sometimes wears thin. Tomorrow your dreams will still be there, patient and wise, ready to show you whatever you are ready to see. But tonight belongs to stillness, to surrender, to the profound simplicity of rest. Your mind has traveled far this evening. Let it rest now. Let the science of sleep carry you into silence, where healing continues its quiet, ancient work. Good night, sleepy soul. Rest deeply, knowing you carry within you everything you will ever need.